Israel Adesanya versus Derek Brunson. Now, what really happened in this fight? This was an excellent performance by Adesanya where he really showcased his takedown defense for most of the fight until he saw the opportunity to land a shot, or instinctively land a shot. And right away in the fight, Adesanya went to back up Brunson. He was chasing the outside foot. So he was marching forward and trying to get his lead foot on the outside and follow that direction. And through that, he was backing up Derek Brunson. And Brunson has two options in this situation. He can either meet Adesanya as he's trying to get on the outside foot, which then causes an exchange, or he backs up, right? So he can move to his right to not allow Adesanya to get the outside foot, but they're going to meet each other then. Or he could just move back. But if he moves back, he gets closer and closer to the cage eventually. And this also makes it a lot easier to see takedowns from Brunson. Takedowns from Brunson are much more effective when he is moving forward and he starts throwing his punches and then changes levels for his double leg usually. And he really leans forward when he goes for his takedowns. They're straightforward shots, and due to that, they're very powerful. But if you can get off the center line, you can really olay him, I guess you would say, or move away from that rushing style. And Brunson never set up his takedowns. And this was part of the reason for it, because usually he likes to set him up with his punches. And he only does that when he moves forward. He's not a counter puncher, and he doesn't really do too well moving backwards. So he just started shooting from a distance. And Adesanya was keeping a very long range on him, a very comfortable distance for Adesanya, and for Brunson, not so much. And you could see his takedowns start to look a little bit desperate sometimes. And because he was shooting so far, he rarely ever got deep on Adesanya. He didn't have that element of surprise behind a setup to get Adesanya guessing. And Adesanya did an amazing job of just backing up Brunson and keeping that range as he did it. And all of Derek Brunson's shots came in with his head on the inside. So he shot his head toward the abdomen rather on the outside of the hips of the opponent. And a main reason for this is they are in opposite stances. And it depends which way does Brunson want to drive the takedown, right? If he tries to get his head on the outside when he goes for these takedowns, he will have to switch stances as he does it. So he'll explode and shoot, and as he creates contact on Adesanya, he's going to have to switch stances to keep his head on the outside, right? So they're going to get in the same stance. And there's one problem with switching stances for the takedown in relation to Derek Brunson's style of takedowns. When you switch stances, there's one break in between, and that is when you are switching, right? And due to this, you can also change the direction of your takedown. But Brunson's style isn't like that. Brunson likes to go one direction and explode fully, commit fully with that takedown in that direction. So naturally, he's going to get his head on the inside, which later in the fight, naturally gets him aligned with a left knee or a left kick, potentially, from Adesanya. From the continuous shots that Adesanya was getting used to from Derek Brunson, muscle memory probably kicked in and saw the shot coming. He threw the knee up the middle and Brunson ran into it with his chin. And in the clinch, Israel Adesanya used amazing technique, impressive technique that is, to control the wrestler in Derek Brunson. So Adesanya, for most of the fight, whenever it got into this exchange, whenever it got in the clinch like this, always went for the overhook on the left side every single time. Whizzers on the single legs. He loved the double overhooks, especially when Brunson got the body lock, because almost every single time, Brunson eventually from the shot drove it up to a body lock, and Adesanya was using the double overhooks. And taller fighters, they have a lot easier time driving overhooks on the shorter fighter, and a shorter fighter has a lot easier time driving in underhooks on the taller fighter. But if the taller fighter can drive in an underhook on the shorter fighter, they can really use leverage to manipulate that weight, picking them up a little bit. And from that, Adesanya was able to escape multiple times from the cage. He was able to use bicep control, sometimes use wrist control, to control the left side of Brunson, and on Brunson's right side, he always had that overhook the entire time, sticking Brunson into the clinch a bit and trying to work on his own right side to eventually escape out that direction. Like I said, bicep control, wrist control. And when he used the bicep control, Brunson actually was fighting the hands and usually would try to keep his left arm on the outside of Adesanya, on Adesanya's right side, so he always had the opportunity to blockade him from moving out that direction. But as soon as Adesanya got in the bicep control, Brunson actually moved his hand under Adesanya's arm and put his hand on the inside. He didn't want anything to do with the bicep control, so what does Adesanya do? Just moves out that direction. He lets go of the overhook and runs out that direction, gets out of there. Brunson eventually able to get him back into the clinch, and what Adesanya was able to do afterward when he got into the same position was he can't just sprint out and move out that direction just like that without Brunson eventually getting back on him. So he had to create more space for himself to move out of. He eventually gets wrist control, which is a lot easier to work with. right? You have a grip, you can grasp onto the wrist and maneuver their arm defensively or offensively. So he didn't allow Brunson to shoot in under, shoot in on his hips, so he had the overhook on the left side as well to reinforce that. And then when he had a confident grip on Derek Brunson, he let go of the overhook really quickly, wrapped around Brunson's head, grabbed onto his chin or jaw area, and with the wrist control on his right side, he turned Brunson's entire body over to the cage, creating a lot of space. Look at all the space he can move out with. And he got Brunson completely off balance because of this, and then he tried to move out. And speaking about that bicep control escape from Adesanya, remember when Derek Brunson grabbed onto Adesanya's shorts, yanked on his shorts against the cage? Adesanya was actually doing the same thing, and he probably would have created separation if Brunson didn't grab onto the shorts. So that part actually mattered, right? It wasn't like he grabbed onto the shorts and Adesanya was just moving. Adesanya was working on the same escape and potentially could have got away from Brunson. And you can also see throughout the fight, Derek Brunson really respected Adesanya's striking. You could say a bit too much, to the point where he wasn't really throwing anything. He could have attempted to blitz in on Adesanya and not allow him to march him down like this, at least throw something in the way, but he really didn't. He was just looking for the takedowns from a distance, showing that he respected the striking of Adesanya too much. In that one sequence where Brunson was getting backed up again, Adesanya was chasing the outside foot, Brunson shot in on that single leg from very far away as he was doing the whole fight, and he actually got the single leg, but Adesanya, you could see his takedown defense. Right away, he drives in the whizzer on the left side, or an overhook, to fight off that single leg, allowing himself to control that side of Brunson a lot more. And on the right side, it's kind of hard to see from the camera angle, but it seems like he's pushing Brunson's head. And Brunson tries to trip out the other leg of Adesanya with his right leg, going behind Adesanya. He's going to have to reach pretty far for that one. It's a risky takedown to go for, and he misses the leg of Adesanya, and he falls himself. This here kind of shows the desperation Derek Brunson had to take this guy down. He was willing to commit that much on such a risky takedown just to get Adesanya to the ground. And Adesanya was able to get away. He actually spins around him, creates distance, and this was excellent by Adesanya, the fact that he redirected and tried to get back onto Brunson, but he moved in too much. He covered a little bit too much distance. If he came back onto Brunson and kept that range again, or a little bit closer where he could land some strikes as Brunson's trying to rebound from that failed takedown attempt, Adesanya, I believe, would have more opportunities to land shots, but he rushed in a little bit too much, went into Brunson's range, and went for that long left hand, and Brunson was able to get right under it. The instincts of the wrestler is to go under the shots and go for takedowns whenever danger appears out of nowhere, right? This time for a double leg. Boy, you have to give Adesanya credit here for stopping this takedown. I mean, he went deep with that left straight, and Brunson got deep on him on the right side, but he did go for a double leg. So I believe if he went for a single leg, it would have probably been a little bit more effective, but he was able to move with the momentum, be heavy on the left side of Adesanya, on the right side of himself, and drive that forward a little bit to where they both rotate. And then he goes for the double underhooks again and snatches that body lock. And here you can see the sheer explosiveness and awareness from Israel Adesanya on the takedown of Derek Brunson. And this is probably the closest Brunson got, at least how deep he got on a shot, to potentially work more effectively with the takedown. They got in pretty close to each other. Brunson actually moved forward, and Adesanya also moved forward. And this is about boxing range here, long boxing range. So Adesanya goes and throws a long left hand, and Derek Brunson ducks right under it, was able to see it coming. Adesanya actually flared out his elbow, and that usually will give a slight tell, and when we're talking about a game of inches, that could be just enough for Derek Brunson to see the punch coming, instead of popping it out right from there. But Brunson was able to get under the punch, and he goes in for another single leg, and he always goes on the same side heavy, right? It seems like he's trying to shoot for the double leg, because look, he's also reaching for the other leg, but he's always leaning toward Adesanya's left side. But look at the speed of Adesanya, able to drop his level, even though he threw a long left straight, and Brunson was able to counter with the takedown. He was still able to get to the position and meet Brunson almost at the same time. That is very impressive. It shows his awareness. He was able to drive in an underhook on the right side, and it seems like he drove in an overhook on the left side. And with the overhook, he was able to control Brunson a lot better, so he didn't need the underhook completely, and he was able to put it in front of him this time and create distance with it, instead of trying to give Brunson that close range so he can work with his takedown a lot more. So he starts pushing on the face of Brunson, creating distance, and pushing Brunson's head away from his body, away from his hips, so Brunson could drive a little bit more. And the overhook on the left side is also working for that. And Brunson just drives with it. He stands up with it. His head's getting pushed up, which actually forces him to work his way up from the hips and the legs up to the upper body. Wherever his head is pointing to, that's naturally where your body is trying to follow. Brunson drives in the left underhook to run with this position and eventually gets it to the cage again. And Brunson eventually, he drops his weight and tries to pull Adesanya forward. And Adesanya actually almost squats down, puts his weight behind him, and uses those overhooks to break and slide down Brunson's arms. You can see where his arms eventually get, toward where the elbows would be of Derek Brunson. Slides down his arms and breaks the grip. But Brunson drives in for another double leg. Arms able to get around Adesanya's legs. He doesn't connect his hands. He doesn't get the best grip. And he's a little bit too high, too late on the legs of Adesanya. Adesanya's able to sprawl on top of him and eventually spin around Brunson and get away toward his right again. And Brunson marches down at Israel Adesanya. And Brunson goes for another shot. And he does it the same way he's been doing it the entire fight. He puts his head on the inside when he shoots. And what does Adesanya do? Instinctively throws out that knee, catches Derek Brunson right on the chin, and this is the beginning of the end. Just that one shot is all Israel Adesanya needed. It seemed through muscle memory, through the continuous shots that Brunson seemed to go for on Adesanya. If he shot him with his head on the outside of Adesanya's hips, this knee probably would never caught him, especially if he went on the right side of Adesanya. But he put his head on the inside, ran right into a knee. That's when those sniper shots took over. And actually I was kind of surprised to see when Derek Brunson egged on Israel Adesanya. So he actually eggs him on. He tells him to come on. That just shows the heart of Derek Brunson. That shows his willingness to just keep going on. But he wasn't putting any offense on Adesanya. Very defensive. So Adesanya goes for a question mark kick with his right leg this time. Before he did it with his left, now he does it with his right. And you could see Derek Brunson thought it was probably going to go to the legs or possibly to the body because he crunches over and dips to his left a little bit, as well as brings his right leg up, it seems like, to potentially check the kick. Catches him right through the hand, lines him up for that right hook over the top. And the crazy thing is about kicks, people don't usually think a punch is going to come after a kick. It's rarely ever used in MMA if you notice. It's usually people like to end combinations with kicks instead of the other way around. Adesanya started with the kick and ended with the punch, and it came on the same side as well, which I believe caught Derek Brunson off guard, and of course he doesn't have all his wits about him. He's rocked already like crazy. So any other fighter, actually, I believe if Adesanya is able to throw that same combination, it would catch a lot of people. This is a very similar combination Anthony Pettis landed on Tony Ferguson when he threw the right kick and then the right overhand over the top, able to catch him off guard. It's a very sneaky combination and actually pretty basic if you look at it. But many fighters don't reverse the combination, starting with kicks and ending with punches. They believe the kicks are so powerful, they should be ending the combination because the hands are so fast, they should be setting it up. But when you switch it on them, it creates a whole different game. I mean, this is an excellent performance by Israel Adesanya. He showed, not only does he have amazing striking, it's confirmed. In MMA, it translated, it's confirmed. But his takedown defense is something not to laugh at, not to make a joke out of, not to underestimate anymore. If he could stop Derek Brunson's takedowns, yes, they came out from a little far away, and of course, Adesanya's still going to have to work on his takedowns, especially in the clinch. If he fights guys like, let's say, Yoel Romero or Jacare Souza, other style of takedown artists, if he's able to progress from this, because this is impressive, everybody's going to be in trouble. And it's very impressive to see where his takedown defense actually is at this high level of the UFC. I mean, he's only fought this year. He wasn't in the UFC last year. And he's already stopping one of the best wrestlers' takedowns pretty easily. I mean, he had some fits in the clinch in terms of the position, but he had control of it for the most part. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe for my next video. It's actually going to be the prediction video of this weekend's UFC card. It's an excellent card. Great fights on there. So be lookout for that tomorrow. And then my podcast is probably going to come out on Friday. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.